protein meat sizzling on the grill. Go to butcherbox.com/herd. Free box of bacon. Free bacon, I should say, in the first box. Butcherbox.com/herd. So Jim Jackson played for a decade and a half in the NBA. He did the Bucks Heat game Saturday. Nets Celtics game 5 tonight. And he is now joining us live. You know, Jim, it's interesting. Embiid is now hurt. Luke is hurt. Chris Paul's been hurt. AD is hurt. It seems like there's more injuries now than ever, or am I over-dramatizing it because we live in the moment? When you go back to your days, were injuries as common and were they as influential as they are now? I thought football was the injury sport, but it's these basketball guys, all these stars. I mean, was it this bad years ago and we just didn't pay attention?
Yeah, I would say injury's always been a part of it. I think it's because now maybe it's the names that are associated with the injuries that cause the alarm a little bit more. But, you know, at this state juncture of the season, Colin, as you know, it's such a long season that everybody has something. Now it's a difference between playing injured and hurt. You know what I mean? And playing hurt, a lot of guys are playing hurt. You know, a lot of guys are playing hurt. But it just seems like I think the names, because of what it is. And Lucas is probably not as serious as maybe AD's because of his groin, and Kemba's because of his knee, things like that. But it's just ironic that a lot of big-name players are kind of quote-unquote injured right now at this point of the season.
Were you more impressed with the Bucks or less impressed with Miami since you called that? What side do you take? What side was more alarming or impressive?
You know, more so this, Colin, it was the Bucks, because this year I thought this retooled team with Drew Holiday, I think Bobby Porter's, Bryn Forbes really playing well. They're so different than the Bucks team of last year, just having that dynamic. And, you know, all year Miami has struggled. So I was not at all surprised that maybe not that the Bucks swept them, but how and what fashion they were able to do it in. Miami just had their struggles, and their two best players, Bam Adebayo and also Jimmy Butler, really didn't have the kind of impactful games along with the Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. You know, so watching that team play all year, I knew Milwaukee could get through this round. I didn't know it would be a sweep, but just thoroughly impressed with how Milwaukee is going about their business.
So Nets are going to finish off the Celtics, I would presume, tonight. Then they would face Milwaukee. So if what should I watch for when I watch Brooklyn tonight? What will they be able to do against a Milwaukee, and what would concern you if you were a Brooklyn Nets fan going forward?
Well, I mean, it's a dynamic that's different. Steve Nash talked about this, and with this Brooklyn team, because we always talk about how great the big three are, okay, especially in isolation situations. But they really want, Steve Nash really wants the ball to move chain size, because that makes it more difficult to have to guard this team. But it also gets guys like Joe Harris, Landry Shamet, gets those guys involved as well in the offense, because James Harden sets the table for everybody, okay? And when the ball is moving side to side, it's tough to guard every inch of the court. And this Brooklyn team is so dynamic with their big three that the other guys are going to get opportunity. So if you're watching this Boston game tonight, just keep an eye on how many passes Brooklyn makes before the shot goes up. And I'm not saying it's going to be like that all the time, but when they do that, this is a different dynamic of their, offense. And when you play against a tough Milwaukee team who has, defenders that are very good, and plus you have size inside with Giannis and Brooks Lopez, you got to move that size in order for you to really get shots at the basket.
Listen, you watch a lot. You do college and pro, but you watched Anthony Davis with Kentucky. Then you watched them his first 6 or 7 years with the Pelicans. So Laker fans are like, man, this guy gets hurt a lot. And my takeaway would be, no, he always has. You just didn't watch Pelican games.
Yeah, right.
So when I look at this Anthony Davis, and I'm like, if I'm the Lakers this morning, Jim, I'm like, we got a 5-year deal on this dude. And this cat, it's getting more games and more games and more games. I mean, do you think the Lakerland, those executives and LeBron are sitting there thinking, we are tied to this for 5 years, guys, and this is what he is. He's hurt about every third game.
You know what's interesting, Colin? I'm glad you brought it up because when I saw what we were going to talk about, I was going to say the bigger picture for the Lakers moving forward is that, okay, LeBron, he can go another couple of years, but at what level is he going to be able to play at? It's still going to be a high level. But post-LeBron, the feeling in upper management has to be that we have to get somebody else in here.
Yes.
Because AD can't carry the load by himself because he is injury prone.
Yeah.
And, and I hate to put that on a person, but I don't know if it was a late growth spurt with Anthony Davis coming out of high school when he grew. All of a sudden, his body has rejected a lot of that because he's been injured. He's injury prone. And it's just a little thing. And sometimes there's nothing as an athlete that he can do. Yeah. Now, he didn't come into the season in the best of shape.
That's right.
Because, the bubble, and they didn't have a lot of time off. So he chilled. He won the championship, let his body rest. So putting that pressure early on to get himself back in shape, I think had some residual effects that we're seeing later in the year. But I hate it for Anthony Davis because he's such a phenomenal player, but this has been a part of his playing history. And if you're the Lakers, you better be concerned well beyond this year.
Yeah, no, this is a really good point, is that even if you love AD, he is not a bankable number one star with his injury history. No. So I was saying, and again, you're a college pro guy, the Utah Jazz or Gonzaga. They're great, but until Gonzaga can win a title and we can see it, we just discount them. And Utah has got the comeback player of the year, defensive player of the year, Donovan Mitchell, Quinn Snyder, most threes, great at home. Nobody talks about him. And I'm watching this Memphis series, and I'm like, they got like 9 guys that can stroke a three. Like, this is a real team. Do you buy Utah, or are you they don't, their ceiling's low? Where are you on the Jazz?
No, I love the Jazz. I love the way they play, especially Mike Conley. Come on, he was an Ohio State guy, so I got to pull for that. But I love the way they play the game. Now, I never thought that they were the team I would pick to win a championship. Could they get to a conference finals? Of course. Could they get to a finals? Of course they could. They have the talent. They have the size. They play defense. They can shoot the three. But it's ironic is that even when – think about this, Colin, and you were, I think, maybe in Portland at the time, Seattle area when Utah, when you had Karl Malone and John Stockton. That crew, as great as they were, didn't get any really run. People – weren't knocking down doors to go see Utah play a lot. I mean, really, they weren't headline top of the Sports Center or, the NBA docket. And it's the case. It's just some teams, some organizations, no matter how good they are, they're still not as sexy as a New York team that is not as good. But the sexiness drives from it being in New York compared to Utah.
Right. Yeah. No. By the way, the Utah with Jerry Sloan was great for 11 years. In fact, and by the way, nobody gave Michael Jordan's Bulls more trouble in the finals than Utah twice. So
I know, and nobody, but then it's like, okay, they get there, right? Yeah, Utah, but then you don't pay attention to them again, which is unfortunate because if you haven't seen Utah play, I mean, this team can play. Defensively, they're great. They love to move the ball and spread it around. I love watching Joe Ingles play Slow-Mo Joe because he just plays the right way. I mean, just you look at him, you're like, how in the hell is he just beating everybody or get his shots up? But that's just basketball. And Quinn Snyder, from a coaching perspective, out-of-bounds plays, underneath out-of-bounds plays, just on the sideline, just drawing up these. Great basketball to watch. So if you're a basketball fan, you appreciate it. But if you're a novice and you're just outside looking in and just like to view the game, Utah is not going to be a team that you're just going to watch. This Utah-Memphis series, for a lot of people, they're like, I like John Morant, but I'd rather watch something else. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So, there's the phones now, Jim, and you and I grew up in a generation without phones being our cameras. So you and I, you can go golfing for 4 hours and not even play with your phone, and you don't care because you didn't grow up with it, and I didn't grow up with it. I'm the same way. I can watch a game and not have the phone around me and be totally okay. And so when I see this fan behavior, part of me thinks this is outrageous. And then part of me thinks, was this happening in the 70s, 80s, 90s, but we didn't have phones? And, so you tell me, go back to your career. What I am seeing with fans now, does it bother you, or are you like, that was every road trip, you'd go on the road. If you went on a 7-game roadie, you'd get 2 of these?
No, it bothers me because